like we have student exchange programs. Then ami amar professor tat pothalu for R&D teolukor pra amar yala hele R&D ahe etu agor porai ase bahut manhu amar yar pora Russia jai for the terms of R&D and education. So hetu eta bahut bhal way hoy jeta people to people contact hoy. Then again, like I said, prothom class, so if you remember the first class I showed you a slide je kun country amak keneke perceive kore, kun country amak bhal boli bhabe, kun country amak beya boli bhabe, kun country amak ene no expectation, nothing. So Russia has a very positive image of India, a very positive image of India, which is very good for us. Okay, for them also tahatoko ami bhale pao, ami to Russia manok beya na pao. So this is a very positive image of India, and a positive image too can be boosted further with exchange of academia, which is a people to people contact mode. Okay, so this is how ami topic pur eketai rakhim. Jodi Indo Bhutan answer to ami likhilu heten aji, তেতিয়ালে আমি কথাবোৰ একেটাই লিখিলো হেতেন কি পলিটিক্যাল হেৰি আমুক তামুক কিন্তু তাৰ মাজৰ যোনবোৰ আমি এক্সপেক্ট বস্তুবোৰ ভৰালো হেতেন তাৰ তলত যে আমি দুটা সেন্টেন্স লিখিলো হেতেন সেই দুটা সেন্টেন্সটো কিন্তু আমি কাস্টমাইজ কৰিব লাগিব ফৰ দা ফেভাৰ অফ ভুটান যদি ভুটানৰ প্ৰশ্ন হয় we will have to put in data of Bhutan, we will have to put in talk about deals with Bhutan, about Bhutan specific thing. So বাহিৰৰ যোনবোৰ পইণ্ট হয় এইবোৰ সেমে থাকে into the country that we are talking about tar logot apunar customization hobo lagibo. You will have to customize your answer, you will have to customize your answer, and I cannot emphasize it enough. I will give you an example. Mor ejon student asile in the free answer writing course junto yar agot soli asile. So he specifically called me one day, texted me one day je I have failed 3 mains. I have failed 3 mains and I don't know what to do. So I need your help. That is what he said. And I felt him. Because kunbai jodi 3ta prelims pass korise, tar mane teor gyanor kami nai. He doesn't have a dart of knowledge. He is full of knowledge. Okay. So jodi full of knowledge tole 3ta mains kene 3ta prelims kene ke pass korise tukka bazir eta goal etao jabo na tukka bazir jaboi nware. There are lot of I have seen a lot of people thinking je amuk to tukkat goal tukka me you cannot clear APSC, that is impossible. Okay, so prelims to 3 bar pass korile, mains to 3 bar likhile, then what is going on, what is the problem? He asked me that. So I checked his paper very carefully. All the papers I checked, but I checked his paper very carefully. And handwriting obhal, he has good handwriting also, very nice handwriting he has. Bahut bhal ke sizzle ke likha hai, dhuniya ke likha hai. Then I found his problem. You know what his problem was? His problem was generic answers. What are generic answers? Generic answers are when you write what is the relationship between India and Bhutan, what is the way ahead between India and Bhutan, mutual trust, academia, economic. What is the between India and Australia? Economic trade, mutual trust, academia. India US, economic trust. Tamane he wrote non-pinpointed statements. The statement bu bhul nasile. He was not wrong in giving the statements, but his statement did not have details. There were no details. Eketai bostu bare teo likhi ase. So teo likhoni to bhul nohoy, kintu teo likhoni to bahut beating around the bush hoy. Enei likhi ase, eketai bostu likhi ase. So he knows about it, but he is not able to include the details inside his answer. Aru jetialoke you do not have details in your answer, you are not going to get good marks in your answer. So although my job is to make your answer writing and my job is to make your attitude towards the exam easier. So moi apunalokok structure di asu in terms of structure to di dim moi je keneke simplify ke ami answer to likhibo paru je education ki economic trade, mutual trust, academia, political support ebur bostu ami generically mona rakhibo lagibo kine tar bhutor jonbu detail hoy you have to remember from the classes je what economic trust with economic trade are we talking about je 6 or 61 or exchange hoy etu product or exchange hoy what political support are we talking about je UNSC and G20 and aggression or time what naam all this type of thing. So whenever you write an answer, yes, you will have to talk about generic items only as headings. Tar bhitorot you will have to include details or your answer is not a good answer. Your answer is not a good answer. Not a good answer till you include details. Till you include details. Understood? So your answer is not a good answer till you include details. So etu bostu ami buji pabo lagibo and we have to learn from the mistakes of others. I pointed it out to him last exam or agot. I hope he wrote a good answer. Etu ami result dile gom pam. Kintu we have to understand the mistake that others do so that amar mistake hetu nohoy. Okay? So jetia moi generic bostu ko just generic things are only headings tar bhitoror jonbu detail hoy you have to write it down and etu nijor murot bharai lok je your answer should look like a case study. Look like a case study. Your answer should look like a case study. Case study book enuka hoy we give amuk particular details we give amuk sonor etu hoile tamuk sonor etu hoise isn't it? So every question you have, every answer you write should look like a case study. Only then you are going to get good marks on it. Or etu okol moi international relation bili kwa na I am talking in terms of every answer you write in all the papers. Okay? Don't take tension. Ami hiki jam how to put details, but murat bharai dilo ki details no bharalake amar questioner bhal eta we don't have a positive way of getting marks if we do not include details in our questions, if we do not write case study like answers. Okay, next. Okay, so India Russia is done. We are coming to India Africa next. Anything you want to ask? नीलम इतिहास माधुर्यन मोनाली किच्छु पूछना है? You want to ask something? किबा हुदिबो? No ma'am, मोनाली नुदे बाकी है? No, okay, ठीक है सर. So do we need 5 minutes or we can go to Africa? Yeah, let's go to Africa. It's a very only 1 घंटा আছে নহলে আমাৰ ওচৰত. Let's go to Africa. Okay, now we are going to study about India and Africa. India and Africa relationship. আমি এতিয়ালৈকে যাৰ লগত কথা পাতিলো সবৰ লগতে আমাৰ হেৰি হয় না we are the taker more than the giver. India and Japan যেতিয়া আমি পঢ়িলো India and Japan যেতিয়া পঢ়িলো জাপানে আমাক কিবা কিবি aid দিছে হয় না ও আৰু এটা বস্তু I asked this question in my second India Japan time I asked this question যে India কোনবা এটা nuclear power plant Japan invest কৰিছে আৰু মই সাউথত টাকা বুলিও কলো. Many people didn't answer, many people answered Kudankulam. So there is no such nuclear power plant jo Japan invest korise and this is how you are going to get confused in your prelims. prelims is going to ask you this kind of questions. Jodi ebar prelims at apuni sai, there was a very interesting question jinno mur karne easy asile but manhor karne tan hol hoy je where is Mahamaya temple? Where is Mahamaya temple? Remember? So that Dhuburiu asile, Kokrajharu asile na pahorilu. Mahamaya temple is in Kokrajhar, but jehetu ami mukhere koi thako Dhuburi Mahamaya mandir, ami Dhuburi Mahamaya mandir buliye, in fact APSC Dhuburi Mahamaya mandir buliye answer olaisile. Eto hetu claim hoi thik hol. So why am I saying this? Say ami word of mouth ot shuna ba kiba bostut ami confuse hoato bahut সহজ হয়. So মই আপোনাক কলো কি সাউথত আছে এনুকা nuclear power plant লগত associate hoise, but actually there is no nuclear power plant that Japan directly invest etialoke korise. That investment is done by Russia, not Japan. So this is how you are going to make mistakes. So very very confident talk in whatever you say. Opposite manutue ba opposite manuk APSC boli bhabi lok, mok APSC boli bhabi lok. APSC jimane conviction on apunak era proshno nuhudok kyo, you are always going to give the correct answer according to your knowledge. You are not going to get convinced कि APSC ने तो ये पूछा है इस angle में, so this might be a right answer. Okay, so there is no such nuclear power plant that Japan ने इतिहास invest करिसे. It was Russia. Now India and Africa relationship. So India and Africa relationship is one relationship जो India is the giver. जो India is the giver. Aru ami Africa as a whole pohisu. We are not going to get inside the countries because Africa junbur country ase, not all, but a lot of them are still undergoing a political turmoil. They are still going on a political turmoil. Telukor civil war to common phenomena hoar nisna. Eta tribe to tribal logot lagile hoy na noy, eta kiba rakhile some principles are not agreed by the other principles. So Africa as a whole or bhitorot goi pela ame protitu country logot relationship to nasao. We will look at Africa as a whole together because amar jonbur relationship ase heburu generally we look at it as Africa as a whole. We don't go inside the countries. Kisman horu point kiba particular relationship like if we have a diamond relationship, we'll have with South Africa. We will have a uranium relationship, we'll have some other country. So enuka particular relationship as jontu moi apnak mention korim, but in totality Africa jonbur policy thake India Africa boli gorhe, not as particular countries. All right, so India and Africa relationship to kenekwa. We have a historical relationship. Can anyone tell me what historical relationship? It's a very simple question. India and Africa at a historical, at a modern India related, at a colonization related, amar at a historical commonality ase. Key commonality hai? Can someone suggest? Can someone write down kya commonality we have between India and Africa? Dominance by the white people, yes, correct. Aru, at a particular dominance by the white people is right. Gandhi, yes. Isme likha hai samoi the it's already written. But yes, I was talking about Gandhiji. Jay Gandhiji is a very big commonality between India and Africa. Let's look at it now. In the early 1920s, both regions were fighting against colonial rule and oppression. India saw struggle against colonization as an international forum and saw all participants as their partners. There was a development of monsoon culture through the trade culture, and the colonial phase saw the forceful migration of indentured laborers of okay, first time upor to silo. First time tara go to jao monsoon culture. India and Africa মাজত এটা monsoon relationship আছে. India and Africa মাজত এটা monsoon relationship আছে. মই আগৰে map to চাও হা, map to Africa আছে না নাই চাই লম. Yes, India আৰু Africa মাজত এটা monsoon relationship আছে. যে মনসুন আহিলে আমি ট্রেড কৰো, মনসুন আহিলে আমি ট্রেড নকৰো। অ্যাকর্ডিং টু মনসুন আগতে আমি ট্রেড কৰিছিলো, যে মনসুন যদি সাউথ ইস্ট হৈ আছে তেতিয়া হলে তাহাঁতৰ পৰা ট্রেড আহিব, আমি যেতিয়া ৰিভার্স গৈছো আমাৰ পৰা ট্রেড যাব। It was like that. So India and Africa has a monsoon culture in it. Okay, etu amar ekdom bahut agor ghotona aru amar majot already monsoon relationship ase. So monsoon relationship hol aru kintu monsoon relationship tor pisot ki hol, we both got colonized. Both India and Africa got colonized. Amar duitake colonize korile kune, like Harry said, like Monali said, white people, but we will not write white people, we will write European powers. We will write European powers. Ane? So enukwa nohoy ki hiotoro gutetu kokol England de loi loisile jeneke amak nohoy, they were different colonizer in different parts. There were some parts were taken by England, some parts were taken by Portugal, some parts were taken by Spain, some parts were taken by some other country, like that. Okay, Dutch people were also there. So tahator eta concoction of all the area asile ar amak okol primarily England de colonize kori asile. But we both were tortured. Our economic system were affected, our political system were affected, our people were affected. So India jetia operation against lagi asile, colonial ruler operation against jetia India lagi asile, jetia India thought of it as a global phenomena. India thought of it as a global phenomena. Aru jot operation against say colonization or against eta activity hoy asile, India thought of it as their partners. जे आमी जेनेके I said, दुश्मन का दुश्मन दोस्त होता है. Africa, if somebody is fighting against colonizers, वो भी दुश्मन है. The colonizers are दुश्मन. We are also fighting against the दुश्मन, so we are friends with Africa. So Africa और आमार एटा common modern history relationship আছে. Older to আছে monsoon culture, but एटा modern history relationship আছে that आमी दुइटाए from the atrocity of colonization इतियाओ उठी आसु. इतिया आमी तो उठिलु, किंतु बेचारा Africa is still fighting in the ruins of colonization. We'll look at it. So आमार एटा common enemy असले, which are the colonizers, the European powers. और आमी we both have a rugged history of fighting against the colonizers. और आमार एटा दुटा मान बहुत specific आमार relationship আছে. That is the relationship of indentured laborers. So amar bahut Indian manu, a lot of Indian laborers were taken from India to Africa to work on farms and mines. Okay. So tahatok je amar yapa loi goisile, they were also called Girimitias. Okay, so those indentured laborers jone yar par teolokok tat loi goisile, bahut manu tate thaki gol, so tare origin hoy gol, now the Indian diaspora there. So there also we have a very tortured people to people relationship. Tahator pa amar yare manu ahan asile Africa pura, but we sent people to Africa for working as indentured laborers in mines and farms. So amar manu already tat ase forceful migration, amar manu already tat ase, etu eta relationship we have, and a very big relationship we have, just like Neelam pointed out, je Gandhi ji tested his methods in South African soil. Hoine India Gandhi ji ahi bole sidha amar yat satyagraha korechilen niki? Tell me, did Gandhi ji perform his satyagraha for the first time in India or in South Africa? Where did he perform his, his methods of fighting colonizers or fighting suppression? He first tested his methods in South Africa, Boer War and all. So look at that, he first tested his methods in South Africa. Then he came to India. So we have that common relationship as well. In fact, our biggest freedom fighter, our father of the nation, had devised his methods and strategies against colonization in Africa itself. So, amar aru Africa relationship to bhale hoy. We have a good relationship between Africa and India. We don't have anything against him. তেওঁলোকো আমাৰ নিচিনাই সাপ্ৰেছ পাৰ্টি হয়, তেওঁলোকো কলোনাইজাৰে কাফি অত্যাচাৰ কৰিলে, তেওঁলোকৰ তাত আমাৰ মানুহ আছে, আমাৰ মানুহ তাত ইন্টিগ্ৰেল পাৰ্ট হয় ফ্ৰম দেয়াৰ সোসাইটি, আমাৰ লিডাৰে তাত নিজৰ মেথডবোৰ প্ৰেক্টিস কৰি আহিছে, সো উই হ্যাভ আ গুড ৰিলেশনশিপ উইথ আফ্ৰিকা। সেকেন্ড, সো ইন্ডিয়াই যেতিয়া ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্স গেইন কৰিলে ইন 1947, ইন্ডিয়া তো এখন কান্ট্রি আছিল, রাইট? কিন্তু আফ্রিকা তো বহুত কান্ট্রি আছিল, লট অফ কান্ট্রিজ। সো তেওঁলোকৰ ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্স তো পাওতে পাওতে বহুত দিন লাগি গল। তেওঁলোকৰ ইন্ডিপেন্ডেন্স তো আনটিল ৰিসেন্টলি নোপোৱাৰ নিচিনা। সো অল দ্য কান্ট্রিজ তেওঁলোকৰ যেতিয়ালৈকে ফুল কলোনাইজেশনৰ পৰা ফ্ৰীডম নহলে, তেতিয়ালৈকে ইন্ডিয়া became a very leading voice in support of African decolonization at the United Nations. যেনেকে রাশিয়ায় আমার কারণে কথা কলে, আমি কথা কলু আফ্রিকার কারণে। We spoke very loudly about Africa. Ki Africa should be freed, Africa should be decolonized, they deserve their independence and all that. Ar ami hetu various international forum, primarily with United Nations, ami hetu siori kolu, and this is very, unnatural of India. India is generally a silent party. India generally doesn't speak. Ar nijor kam kori thake. Kintu when it comes to decolonization, India nijor trauma bahara nai. India underwent a trauma for 200 years, and nijor logot juntu hol hetu Africa logot hobo nagalage. Ami freedom paইছো, হিহঁতেও freedom পাবলে, they deserve freedom, they deserve justice, they deserve economic freedom and economic prosperity. Ar hetu karone India United Nations primarily they became a very leading voice in support of African decolonization. Independent India, though extremely poor, strived to share its limited resources with African countries under the banner of South-South cooperation. So, Ami Itia, we have heard of this South-South cooperation, right? This South-South cooperation we have found Global South. Okay. So South-South cooperation by Global South or kuno enuka, kunba defined definition nai, but generally equator ke niche, so southern hemisphere South-South relationship. So amar nijor sore paisa nai decolonize hoar pisot, we were ourselves very poor, kintu we still strive to share our resources with Africa. Amar osor jodi 10 taka ase, ami tar 1 taka Africa disu, 1 taka nohoy 50 paisa man Africa disu, কিন্তু আমি দিম, because আফ্ৰিকাও বেচেৰা হেতু সিচুৱেচনতে আছে যোনটো সিচুৱেচনত আমি 1947 ত আছিল। সো আমি এটো বস্তু কোয়াইট ফিল কৰিছিল, আৰু হেতু কাৰণে ইন্ডিয়া অলদো ইটসেলফ ওয়াজ পোর, আমি নিজে গৈ বিলা ইউএস অফ উইট খুজি আছো কি খানা দে দো, our people are not getting fed. We ourselves went to get wheat from Russia, US and Russia. But amar jiu limited resource asile, ami he resource tuke we shared with Africa. Okay, now this point is not only useful when it comes to India and Africa. It is not only useful jeti ami India and Africa kotha patu. Ebar GS data ahisile about what we talked about Indian Vishwaguru. I keep talking about this, right? We talked about India's image as Vishwaguru. Then we have a concept je India jeneke we talk about Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, we do talk about it, right? Eto ebar khub ahise Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam G20 asile karone ahise baro, but jiu no kyo je amar juntu principle ase, India's principle is very relevant in today's globalized world. Enuka type of question ahibo pare. So that jodi ami enukata bostu mention kori diu ki although Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam and India's image as Vishwaguru has more enhanced in today's date, but India has been true to its principle right since its independence, as it shared a part of its own economic resource with Africa when it itself was not doing very well. So if we talk about this kind of things, tetia amar ki show kore, this shows that you have a deep knowledge about the subject matter. So this is how ami jeta India Africa pohi asu, we are not only talking about India and Africa, we are also talking about India's nature. We are talking about India's nature. Kali jodi kunba country specific question nahe aru globalized question eta hai, jenike I just talked about Vishwaguru. When we are not talking about specific countries, we are not talking about some particular relationship between a particular country, tetia ami what we are going to do, ebilak example e amak India nature to show kore. So we can use this as good example to make your question answer look like a case study. Like I said, we are going to write GS paper. GS is general studies. You have to integrate everything. Okay? So this kind of Harry, you can use anywhere. Je amar nijorat pasand thakute ami belog pasandisilo. What does it show? Je we actually consider Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam to the core. Our Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is our spiritual principle when it comes to international relationship, and we have expressed it right since our independence when we shared our limited economic resource with Africa when it had none and we had none as well. Okay, so this type of things we need to remember. So after India gained independence, Kolu, leading voice, strive to share its limited resources with African countries under the banner of South-South Cooperation. Okay, next. Oh, clean select. Way back in 1964 itself, India had a Technical and Economic Cooperation Program, ITEC, and has been a useful medium for promoting cooperation in the development of human resource. Yeah, detail bur ami agot pohim. But way back in 1964, India usar belek kiba nathakileo India usar eta bahut prominent bostu ajiloke ase, and that is human resource. Amar manubor bomsuka. We have a lot of smart people, talented people. Japan amar tat ahibole ki bisarisile? Human resource. Ore nohoy? Japan amar ya Japanese pohai ase ne? IIT pohai ase? Techpo University pohai ase? Japanese pohai ase? Why do we need Japanese? I talked about the phenomena of missing generation. Remember, manu nai hotor. Yoti amar manu bisarise. Japanese pohai pela tale loi jabo bisarise. So what do we have that the rest of the world is wanting? That is human resource. So amar so jetia human resource ase, ami human resource of train u bahut bhalke koribo janu. We have a good ecosystem of human resource training. Aru ei human resource training to ami Africa disu, ami service disu, amar sa nijor paisa nai na iman, so ami odok service disu. Our service ami keneke disu? In the form of India's Technical and Economic Cooperation Program, which started way back in 1964. Aru etu ami ITEC, India's Technical and Economic Cooperation to kyo monot rakhibo lage? Because tar underot belegu bahut ami activity korisu, junbur ami agot goi sam, and ITEC still existing. ITEC itiao ase, aru ITEC underot bahut matter ami already teolukok disu. We will talk about that as we go ahead. Okay, now India-Africa relationship too is not like India and Harry. India-Africa relationship too is not like India and other countries. India and Africa relationship is based on these principles. It is a pure give relationship. We are pure give relationship. Ami Africa pa eko expect no koru. Africa asar nijor nai. Yati thik hoi log, tetia loke ami odok help kori. Aim of empowerment. We have an aim of capacity building, HR development, access to Indian market, investment in African land. So, teolukok empower korato amar eta very strong agenda. Teolukor capacity building korato amar agenda. Teolukor HR development to amar agenda. Aru amar Indian market or access diya to amar agenda. giving an access to Indian markets to amar agenda aru amiu hiyotor tat investment korim jenike amar tat Japan invest korise Russia invest korise ami hiyotor tat invest korim so that hiyoti olop development hoy okay so these are the things that we intend to have with Africa now we will delve deeper into it okay देखा पाइसे हाँ let us first look at the economic relationship between India and Africa तो आमी economic relationship बुली कोले केने के साउ जे आमी साइसिलो जापाने आमा केता you know extended line of credit extend কৰিছিলে just after the world war তেওঁলোকে আমাক দিছিলে পইচা আমি তেওঁলোকৰ লগত বেলেগ কে friendship korbo goslo peace treaty sign korisilo which was not with the normal world war wala 1952 remember to tahadi amak line of credit extend korisile juntu nuclear ami teolukor logot fight nuclear testing korar pisa ako ghurai lisle ako dile bar pisat kintu jeneke amak japan line of credit diesile itiao amak japan line of credit dise heneke ami line of credit disu Africa we have given 12 billion as line of credit to Africa and 1.2 billion as grant to Africa India's cumulative investment in Africa stands as US 70 billion. So, ame teologok 12 billion diso loan. 12 billion US dollar de. US dollars. Heri no hoy. Rupee no hoy. 12 billion US dollar diso. Ame in terms of line of credit 1.2 billion NA diso. 1.2 billion grant diso. Ghurabo na lage. And we have done about 70 billion US dollars or investment in Africa. For example, India and Southern African Custom Union Preferential Trade Agreement. Okay? So this type of investment, ami tate rastao banaisu, ami tate we have done teolokor offices ami construct korisu, hospitals ami construct korisu. So we will not go into very details of it because there is a very less chance India Africa ahibo, but আমি সাইট হব লাগে we never say never নাহিবও পারে আহিবও পারে so we will not delve very deeper into it যেনেকে ইন্ডিয়া আর ইউ আহিব পারে but India and Africa অলপমান context to not এটা recently একো হোৱা নাই but তথাপিও we will look at it next we have granted duty free imports to over 34 countries to Africa people to people cooperation India has provided Africa with India's skilled workforce like engineers trained nurses digital public infrastructure and healthcare equity So duty free import to actually bahut dangor kotha hoy it's a huge point je ami nijor duty mane import duty kotha koisu import duty mane ki junbor imported bostu ahe tar ami era duty lagao eta tax lagao right so that they become more expensive amar local market e jate tar logot compete koribo pare so junbor amar aru teoluke amar market use korise amak to kiba poisa dibo lagibo no So, আমি সব বস্তুতে import duty লগাও in fact আমি import duty লগাও কারণে world trade organization এর লগত আমি প্রায়ভাগ কাজিয়া লাগে যে why are you doing this world trade organization believes in হেৰি কিবা we believe in হেৰি free trade তোমালোকে কিয় এনে কৰিছে so আমাৰ against case test কৰি দিছে কোনোবা in fact জাপানেও গৈছিলে but let's not talk about that so we have this kind of problems when it comes to our import duty but for Africa ami 34 ta country keo basic country import duty maaf kor disu ki amak import duty tumar pa na lage please use our market tumalage bostu bonwa tumalage hati ghura bag bhaluk jiu bonwa tumalage amar Indian market to use kora aru tumalage amak kuno import duty dibo na lage ar tumalage aram se nijor amar market to use kora hetu actually bahut dangor eta bostu hoy because Indian market is very huge India manu ase manuhor tat paisao ase ar paisa khorch kora monu ase so India is a huge market when it comes to Indian market bahut manu to he kolu na jaddo jahar juddho hoye geise ekdom kyo amar market to lagaise import but Africa ar karone ami koisu bhai amage ko import ti na lage tumar ki bostu ase tumi aha Indian market or manu bilakok kwa je amar product to bhal hoy aru bostu to use kora okay aru okol ami market e nohoy ami hihotok nijor skill forces o disu we have given skill workforce under several agreements ama yapa ami engineer pathaisu train nurses pataisu, digital public infrastructure etu kotha botolot pohim, healthcare ami develop korisu. So we have given whatever is best with us to them for their development. Okay. So top 5 market for Indian exports in Africa are South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, Kenya and Togo. Ito amar karone Indian exports kot sobat se besi jai in South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, Kenya and Togo. India's top importers are also South Africa, Nigeria, Egypt, Angola and Guinea. So Kenya and Togo, they have not developed much as exporters, but teoluke amar bostubur quite use kore. But South Africa, Nigeria and Egypt are the common countries. Teoluk agor porai olopman politically, they are politically better, economically better. So South Africa, Nigeria, Egyptor mazot, Egyptor logot amar homanor lina aru dena ase. Item ki exchange hoy? India pathai medicine and automobile and services as obvious, and India receives oil 16% from Nigeria and Angola, coal from South Africa, gold bullion and diamond also from South Africa, uranium from Mozambique. Aru kiba kibi ami pao, but iman ami sob bostu to ami ere list out korbo noaru. Kintu again when we look at it, we will have to see what is the relationship between India and Africa. India is a processed bostu ase, Africa is a raw bostu ase. So India ki pathaise? India pathaise medicine, India pathaise automobiles and services. Ar taluke ami tehante amak ki pathaise? Oil pathaise from Nigeria and Angola, coal pathaise, gold pathaise, diamond pathaise from South Africa and uranium pathaise from Mozambique. So it is pretty much like India and Russia. Also Russia eta belag eta angle ase, but Africa amak crude bostu ei pothabo para hoy ase because hihotor tat primary sector to hai besi improve hoy ase, secondary sector and tertiary sector hihotor itiao iman improve hoa nai, manufacturing itiao hihotor tat iman bhalke develop hoa nai. So hihotor tar pora jiu amar tale bostu ahe, they are primarily raw in nature. So ami ki pao? Ami oil pao, coal pao, gold pao, diamond pao, uranium pao, all of these things come from Africa. Okay, next. Social relationship. Like I said, amar osor social relationship thakiboi, ami hotor karone vocal hoy for their development, right? We are vocal for their development. So we have a social relationship. In 2017, under the Indian Council for Cultural Relationship (ICCR), 50,000 scholarships had been granted to African students over 5 years. The Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation (ITEC), junu 1964 hoisile, moi matro koisilu, program is assisting Africa in giving people opportunities to learn new skill and acquire knowledge through training programs. So amar jento social relationship ase hetu okol ami mukhere kori dia buliye nohoy, ami under Indian Council, under Indian Indian Council of Cultural Relationship, ami tar underot 50,000 African student talk itialoke scholarship disu, right? Ami tialoke scholarship disu over 5 years so that they develop their human resource. 50,000 manuhok scholarship dia to actually a big deal. Also amar jonto ITEC ase, Indian Technical and Economic Cooperation, jonto ami 1964 ote banaisilu, he 1964 under he to ITEC under ami teolukok training program organize koru so that they learn new skills and acquire new knowledge. Just like I said, human resource development. Okay, is there something that you need to ask me? Moi koye goi asu, or is it okay? Okay, not okay?